Man, oh man, it just gets better and better. Read something today that's very interesting, and I could have swore this guy was the food czar that Obama appointed, of course, a while ago. So this isn't like brand new breaking news, I don't believe. But for some reason, I saw it on the internet today as if it was like just happened. I don't think it just happened. I'm pretty sure I already covered this a while back. But I want to read you the Wikipedia entry for the top dog in the FDA, the food czar as he's being called. And his name is Michael Taylor. And in case YouTube is trying to not allow my ads to play because they think I'm reading something someone else wrote, this is from Wikipedia, which has the Creative Commons license, etc. So this is public information that's allowed to be rebroadcast. Thank you for not trampling on my rights, YouTube. Which is interesting because the other video I did the other day about Sandy Hook, Connecticut lawmakers trying to put a bill forward to stop and hide all of the information from Sandy Hook, what the police report said, what the eyewitness children said. They want to hide all that. They took my monetization, the video ads, they removed it completely. Can't have those on there. I didn't paste any video of anything I copyrighted. I didn't post pictures. I was in my car talking. Isn't that interesting? That video had about 10,000 views now. Interesting. So anyways, on with this. Who is Michael Taylor? Michael Taylor is currently the Deputy Commissioner, the man, for the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. And under Wikipedia, his early career, he received a BA degree in political science from Davidson College and a law degree from the University of Virginia. In 1976, after passing the bar examination, Taylor became a staff attorney for the FDA, where he was executive assistant to the commissioner. In 1981, he went to private practice at a law firm known as King and Spalding, a law firm, one client of which was the biotechnology company MONSANTO, where he established and led the firm's food and drug law practice. In 1988, he published an article entitled "The De Minimis Interpretation of the Delaney Clause, Legal and Policy Rationale." In other words, the bare minimal interpretation of what this could possibly mean, and just make it the minimal amount so we can skate by. So Monsanto, who he was the lawyer for, could underscore what the law really was. So this was in the Journal of American College of Toxicology, which is now called the International Journal of Toxicology, which he had previously presented in December of 1986 at a symposium on topics in risk analysis sponsored by International Life Sciences Institute, Risk Science Institute, Society for Risk Analysis, and Brookings Institution. And that's an interesting one. The paper was delivered and published during the midst of a debate and litigation over federal agencies' interpretation of the Delaney Clause, a part of the federal law written in 1958 that on its face literally prohibits any chemical from being added in any amount to food that is processed if that agent is carcinogenic. As analytical instrumentation increased in power and more agents were found to be carcinogenic at very low levels, the agencies had developed a quantitative risk assessment approach to interpreting the Delaney Clause, which stated that if a carcinogen was present at levels less than 1 in a million parts, the risk of that carcinogen was, quote, de minimis, and it could be allowed on the market. In the article, Taylor presents arguments in favor of this approach. Advocates in favor of organic food have criticized Taylor for taking this stance and have attributed the stance to not to a good faith effort to reasonably regulate, but to an alleged desire to benefit Monsanto financially. On July 17, 1991, Michael Taylor left King & Spalding, the law firm, returning to the FDA to fill the newly created post of Deputy Commissioner for Policy. During that time, he signed the Federal Register notice stating that milk from cows treated with BGH, which is bovine growth hormone, did not have to be labeled as such. No need to label that. His name is not on the FDA's 1992 policy statement on genetically engineered plant foods, but he is said to have been a co-author. Both of these documents grew out of and fall within the regulatory policy framework that was developed starting in the mid-1980s under the Reagan and Bush administrations to ensure safety of the public, yeah, I'm right, I'm sure, and to ensure the continuing development of the fledgling biotechnology industry without overly burdensome regulation. The policy had three tenets. 1. U.S. policy would focus on the product of GM techniques, genetically modified techniques, not the process itself. And 2, only regulation grounded in verifiable scientific risks would be tolerated. In other words, Monsanto will pick their own guy. Check this out. Here's some money. Here's some money. How did that work out? In our favor? Good. Scientific journal was published today that says our stuff's okay. That's how that works. And 3, genetically modified products are on a continuum with existing products, and therefore existing statutes are sufficient to review the products. These tenets were first described in the Coordinated Framework for Regulation of Biotechnology published by the President's Domestic Policy Council Working Group on Biotechnology through the Office of Science and Technology Policy in 1986. You can see how long these bastards have been just pecking away to remove regulations and change things for nothing more than financial benefit. Who cares about life? Who cares about plants? Who cares about genetically modifying? Just it doesn't matter. We don't care if there were real studies. And as a matter of fact, the studies that we saw are deadly, but I don't care. I'm in it for the money. I'm in it to present my buddies at Monsanto. I'm in charge. I'm the big shot. We're just going to go forward. It is disgusting to think that there's actually human beings who think that way and have enormous power underneath them. The 1992 policy, for example, treats transferred genetic material and the intended expression product or products in food derived from GM crops as food additives. So that's considered a food additive. Oh, that's interesting. Subject to existing food additive regulation. But that's not an additive, it's genetically modified stuff. Okay, whatever. Under which that material may be considered either generally recognized as safe, which they call GRAS, generally recognized as safe, so grass, or not, initially at the producer's determination. You mean like Monsanto, the producer of these seeds? Yeah. So is it grass friendly, generally recognized as safe, or not? Who do we ask? Oh, just ask Monsanto. Monsanto, is your stuff safe? Oh, of course. Of course it is. Oh, okay. Well, that qualifies. Okay, let's move on. If the food additives is not grass, etc., the producer is required to submit data proving that the food additive does not adulterate the food. In other words, that the additive is not injurious to health. But it's at their discretion to tell you that to begin with. Right, okay. With respect to genetically modified food, the FDA retained its ability to take enforcement action on any food it found to be adulterated. But you won't find that it's adulterated because when the producer is telling you it's not, that's all that is required. Okay? Which would make its producer, quote, subject to the full range of enforcement measures under the Act, including seizure, injunction, and criminal prosecution of those who fail to meet this statutory duty. But you allow them to tell you right off the bat it's safe without nothing else. Just, is it safe? Yeah, okay, we're good. Wow. So let's go next title here, the USDA. Where's this guy been at the USDA? And between 1994 and 1996, he moved to the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, where he was administrator of the Food Safety and Inspection Service. During that term, he implemented a science-based approach called hazard analysis and critical control points to raising safety standards for meat and poultry production. We need to add that bovine growth hormone. If you are drinking milk that is raw milk, it doesn't have bovine growth hormone, you are in violation. You must label that thing as such. This product must only be for the consumption of animals only. That's what he means by safer. Over the protest, okay, so that was called the hazard analysis and critical control points to raising the safety standards for meat and poultry production. Over the protest from industry, which has been called by food safety advocates a truly heroic accomplishment. Anti-biotechnology activist Jeremy Rifkin made charges in February of 1994 that Mr. Taylor had a conflict of interest with respect to the approval of something called RBST, which is, actually I don't know what that is, it's something, it doesn't show. The FDA replied with a memo indicating that Taylor had recused himself from all but the final stages of the review. The Washington Post reported that on March 15th, FDA Commissioner David A. Kessler sent Rifkin a 4-page letter stating that, quote, none of the activities of Mr. Taylor cited in your petition were in any violation of any applicable law or regulation or were otherwise inappropriate. I believe that Mr. Taylor's behavior adhered to all applicable ethical standards, end quote. Kessler said that Taylor had not been intimately involved in Monsanto, Kessler said, which is this guy that replied back, that Taylor had not been intimately involved in Monsanto's efforts to obtain approval, as Rifkin charged, no way, and that he was involved in the FDA's BST policy only in the final stages of the review. Kessler attached a 9-page memo by FDA ethics official Jack M. Kress supporting that position. Upon arriving at the FDA in the summer of 1991, Taylor recused himself for 1 year from taking part in any agency action dealing directly with Monsanto or any other King and Spalding clients. And then what about after that year? Oh, well, that's fine. It also reported that some longtime agency critics found the charges against Taylor misplaced. Sidney Wolfe, a physician who heads the Public Citizen Health Research Group here, has filed complaints with the FDA about revolving door ethics issues concerning other officials, including this guy too. And a revolving door would be, I'm going to go work for Monsanto, now I'm going to go work for the regulatory agency, the FDA, then I'm going to leave there, then I'm going to go to the USDA, then I'm going to go back to Monsanto. That's a revolving door. Where else do we see that? Banks. I work for JP Morgan, now I'm in charge of the CFTC. I work for Morgan Stanley, now I'm in charge of the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's a revolving door, and there are massive ethical problems with that. Ethical would be the least word I would use there, the least significant word. So where was this other piece at? So she filed complaints with the FDA about the revolving door thing, but he said yesterday that, quote, it's barking up a silly kind of tree to be going up against Mike Taylor. Wolfe said that, as far as we're concerned, he's done perfectly a good job. Wolfe compared Rifkin's charges to saying that anyone who worked for a drug company and began working for the FDA should not be allowed to say anything about drugs in general, a stance that Wolfe characterized as preposterous. Just because you worked at his example, just because you worked at a pharmaceutical drug company and then came over to the FDA, as if you came over here to change regulations so that drug company can get their drugs out, is preposterous. Again, these are the people that do this just for money and power. No other reason. Safety, health concerns, planet concerns, animal concerns, wildlife concerns, crop concerns, your human health means nothing. So now let's move on to his later career. Between 1996 and the year 2000, after briefly returning to that old King and Spalding law firm, he then returned once again to Monsanto to become vice president for public safety. In a 1999 lawsuit filed known as Alliance for Biointegrity vs. Shalala, and GAO revealed considerable disagreement within the FDA concerning decisions about biotechnology products made during Taylor's tenure there. So there was an uproar inside the FDA saying, we don't know if this is a good idea, we don't think we should be doing this, doesn't sound good, I don't know if this is right, but because Taylor was up here, I'm the boss, it is right, we're going to go through with it. And this lawsuit brought that out, that people within the FDA were saying, wait a minute, we don't know about this. Okay. The lawsuit and report also revealed that Mr. Taylor had recused himself from matters related to Monsanto's bovine growth hormone product and had, quote, never sought to influence the thrust or consent. I think they meant to put trust of the agency's policies on Monsanto's products. Oh, no. In June 2000, he joined the think tank Resources for the Future in the position of Senior Fellow and Director of RFF's Center for Risk Management, where he published 2 documents on U.S. aid for African agriculture, both of which were funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. Interesting. During this time, he was also a director at Resolve, a non-profit environmental and public health mediation and dispute resolution organization, and was an adjunct professor of law at Georgetown University Law Center. During this time, according to Marion Nestle, Taylor made strong arguments for a more rigorous and unified approach to food safety, in which he argued for a few things. But at the surface, it kind of sounds good. Okay. But again, everything that he says that we want to change or make better, it's going to be tied to Monsanto. So Monsanto is the go-to company. It's got to be Monsanto's bovine growth hormone. You got weed problems, you got to grow these crops properly, you got to use Monsanto's Roundup type of product. When you go to plant your stuff, you got to use FDA-approved seeds only. Right? That's where this will go. You mean organic seeds aren't good? Absolutely not. They got to be FDA approved. And who's FDA approved? Monsanto. And who else? That's it. Because, we have these drought problems, and they have a seed that's like drought resistant, can grow with less water. And, going green and all, FDA is probably going to make up some nonsense in the future that's the best seed to use. It'll be illegal to have organic seeds because we're having a drought across the world. Got to go to Monsanto. So, on July 7, 2009, Taylor once again returned to government as senior advisor to the FDA commissioner, and on January 13, 2010, he was appointed to another newly created post at the FDA, this time as deputy commissioner for foods. Taylor is featured in the documentaries The Future of Food and The World According to Monsanto as a pertinent example of revolving door tactics, since he is a lawyer who spent the last few decades moving between Monsanto, the FDA, and the USDA. And the latest information that I know about this guy is he is basically Obama's food czar. Welcome to America. Your country is finished. Your health is finished. The food you are eating, the crops is all finished. And it will take generations, at least a few, before you figure out what really went wrong with our health.